At the edge of the Nevada desert, where the sun scorched the cracked earth and silence stretched for miles, a lone figure arrived every morning before the heat set in. Emily Carter was easy to miss: short, slim, hair tied back in a no-nonsense braid, wearing faded jeans and a plain black tee. Her pickup was rusted, her boots worn, and her expression unreadable. She didn't come to socialize, didn't nod at anyone. She came to shoot. The range owner, Roy, had seen all types over the years: rookies, weekend warriors, wannabe snipers, but Emily was different. She brought her own custom bolt-action rifle each time, wrapped in cloth like it was something sacred. She never asked for help, never missed a payment. And most notably, she never missed. She would set up in lane 7, the farthest from the others. Her targets were always placed at max distance, 800 yards minimum, sometimes out to 1,300. Her breathing was measured. She didn't just shoot. She performed a ritual. Adjust scope. Scan for wind. Count the rhythm. Fire. Pause. Breathe. Repeat. 5 shots. 5 perfect holes. Then she'd reload and start again. At first, people thought it was a fluke. Maybe luck. Maybe a trick rifle. But days turned to weeks, and the bullseyes kept stacking up. No one knew her story, and she never offered it. She worked nights at a diner off Highway 95. Locals called her Quiet Emily, a ghost with a rifle. One Tuesday morning, something changed. It was barely past 7 a.m. when a sleek, black SUV rolled onto the gravel lot, its tinted windows and military plates turning heads. Roy leaned out of the shack and narrowed his eyes. That wasn't someone from town. The driver's door opened, and out stepped a man built like tension. Tall, broad, stiff-backed. Gray flecks in his beard. His boots were regulation, his movement exact. He wore plain clothes, but anyone with a hint of experience could tell this man was military. Not just military elite. Commander Jack Rains had seen wars in 4 continents and ghosts in his sleep. He didn't scare easy. But lately, something had been nagging him. A tip whispered from a retired buddy. You should check out this girl out in Nevada. She doesn't talk, just shoots like she's possessed. Rains didn't believe in hype, but curiosity was a disease in men like him. So he made the trip. Now, leaning against the back of his SUV with arms crossed, he watched Emily through his shades. She hadn't noticed him. She was in the zone. He scanned her posture, low profile, perfect shoulder alignment. He caught her subtle wind corrections adjustments, even trained snipers sometimes overlooked. She wasn't just good. She was instinctive. She fired 5 rounds in succession, quick, fluid, surgical. The metallic clang echoed across the range. Rains walked forward, hands behind his back, as Emily stood to reload. She sensed movement and turned, her hand tightening slightly around the stock. He stopped 10 feet away. Mind if I watch? He asked, voice calm but commanding. She studied him. Most men got awkward under that stare. Rains didn't. Free country, she replied, finally. He walked a bit closer, glanced at her rifle. It was old but well kept, hand-modified, no factory. Part untouched. Her scope was dialed in for extreme distance, mil dots worn from use. You military? He asked. She shook her head. No, he nodded, though he wasn't convinced. Where'd you learn to shoot like that? She looked away. My dad? Was he military? She paused. Marine sniper. Afghanistan, retired. Taught me everything. Rains didn't speak for a moment. He just watched her reset, get back into position, and fire again. Bullseye. He smiled faintly. He taught you well. She gave a small, nearly invisible nod. Rains stayed until she packed up. As she walked past, he handed her a small business card. It had no name, just a location. Virginia. Come shoot there sometime. He said. Then he walked away. Emily looked at the card, then up at the man now standing by his SUV, already on. The phone. Something told her that day. This wasn't the end of her story. It was the beginning. Asterisk. Emily sat alone at the diner that night, staring at the card on the table. It was plain white, no name or logo. Just a set of GPS coordinates printed in a faint gray font. She flipped it over blank. She had seen cryptic things in her life, but this felt like something else, something big. She tucked it into her wallet, without a word, and got back to serving late-night coffee to truckers and bikers who didn't ask questions. She thought maybe the man wouldn't come back. But he did 3 days later. Same SUV, same quiet presence. Commander Jack Rains didn't say much. He simply stood at the edge of Lane 7 again and watched her. Other shooters noticed, some whispering about the mysterious visitor. Emily ignored them. She dropped to the ground, adjusted her scope, and focused. Today's wind was tricky, blowing in bursts, unpredictable. But she read it like a book, waiting for just the right lull. Her breathing slowed, chest rising in time with her heartbeats. Then 5 rapid shots, ping, 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 ping. Ping, each one ripping into the exact same hole. A flyer? Never. Rains stepped forward again, his face unreadable. Still just practice? He asked. Emily shrugged. Nothing else to do. Rains studied her. You ever think about competing? Nope. He smirked slightly. Ever think about teaching? She raised an eyebrow. Teaching who? Rains didn't answer right away. Instead, he stepped closer, crouched beside her shooting mat, and picked up a shell casing. He rolled it between his fingers like it held answers. You know what separates good shooters from ghosts? Emily didn't reply. They adapt faster than they think. They don't rely on training, they become it. She looked at him now, really looked. He wasn't trying to impress her or intimidate her. He was measuring her for something she didn't understand yet. He stood and dusted his hands. There's a facility. Not official. Off the books. It's where we take people who don't fit the standard mold, but can do things that matter. I want you there. She frowned. Why me? Because I've trained Navy SEALs, Delta Force, Recon Marines, and none of them shoot like you do. Not raw. Not unpolished. Not ... natural. She hesitated. What would I be doing? That's up to you. It's not enlistment. It's a test. You show up, you train, you walk away if you want. But I promise you'll never see yourself the same way again. Emily didn't answer. She packed her gear and walked away. But she kept the card. That night, she drove deep into the desert, further than usual, where the sky opened up into endless stars. She laid her rifle down on the hood of her truck and stared at the constellations. Her father once told her, "One day someone's going to see you and realize what I've always known. You're not normal, Em. You're meant for more." Was this that moment? She loaded a single round into her rifle and aimed at a tiny tin can on a boulder 1,200 yards away. She breathed in deep, then exhaled slowly. A shot cracked like thunder in the quiet night. A half-second later, the can exploded. She stared through the scope, still and thoughtful. By sunrise, she had made up her mind. At 6:47 a.m., a black SUV pulled into the range again. But Emily wasn't in lane 7. Her spot was empty, the ground swept clean, not even a shell casing left behind. Inside the shack, Roy found a note tucked under the register. Gone for a bit. Don't rent out lane 7. Back in his SUV, Rains answered a secure phone line. A voice asked, "Is she coming?" He looked at the desert one last time, before pulling away. "Yes," he said. She's coming. And the real training hadn't even started yet. Virginia was colder than Emily expected. The facility was buried in the hills off-grid, unmarked, and surrounded by forest. There were no signs, no gates, just a narrow gravel road leading to a secure checkpoint manned by men who didn't speak. They took her ID, checked the SUV's registration, and nodded her through. She didn't ask questions. She hadn't since Nevada. Inside the compound, things were clinical gray walls, steel doors, training grounds surrounded by tall fencing. No insignias, no ranks. Just sharp eyes and sharper movements. She was given a room, plain and simple. No clock, no windows. Just a bed, a desk, and a note that read, "Assessment begins at 0500. Show up sharp, or don't show up at all." Emily didn't sleep much that night. Her mind wandered to the ranch, to her father, to the last time she held his hand before. The floodwaters ripped through the valley. He told her not to panic, told her to let go. "It's not your time, Em. Just keep going." She had morning came fast. The cold bit at her face as she stepped onto the range, where 12 others were lined up. 11 men, 1 woman. Most were tall, muscular, confident. Some wore shirts with old unit patches, Green Berets, Force Recon, PJ teams. All of them looked at her the same way. With doubt, she didn't return the stare. She just stepped to her station, laid her rifle down, and locked in. The instructors gave the rules. Hit targets from 400 to 1,500 yards. Wind shifts every minute. Live competition. Fastest, most accurate shooter would set the tone. Emily didn't blink. The others adjusted their $10,000 setups. She used her rifle, the same one her father built with her in their garage back in Montana. The wood was scratched, the barrel reblued 3 times, the trigger assembly homemade. No electronics, no shortcuts. Just steel and discipline. First shot Emily was second fastest. Second shot fastest and most accurate. Third through 6th clean hits, even through sudden wind bursts. At 1,200 yards, she corrected for crosswind. Faster than the instructors expected and hit dead center. The murmur started. "Who is she? She shouldn't be beating us." But Rains, standing behind the line with arms crossed, didn't say a word. He just watched. The final test was a 1,530-yard shot over hill, through swirling wind, with only 6 seconds to identify the target, measure scope correction, and fire. Emily dropped prone, measured the terrain, counted the rhythm of the wind. By the way, dust moved through grass. 5 seconds, 4, 3. She squeezed the trigger. Silence. Then ping. Center hit. The instructors looked stunned. One of them checked the digital records twice. "Who the hell is this girl?" Someone whispered. Rains didn't react. Just nodded once, barely. Later that afternoon, the recruits went to chow. Emily sat alone, spooning lukewarm stew in silence. One of the larger men, Mackie, former Marine Scout sniper, approached. "You shoot like my nightmares," he said. She glanced up. "You get nightmares often?" He smirked and sat across from her. "Only when they bring in ghosts." She didn't smile, but her eyes warmed slightly. "I'm not a ghost," she said. "Just raised different." He leaned in. "Different? How?" She paused. "Montana, middle of nowhere. My dad taught me to read wind by the sway of pine needles. How to judge angles by crow flight. He told me if I ever missed, it meant I didn't respect the shot." Mackie leaned back, impressed. That evening, Rains found her alone on the gravel near the range. She was cleaning her rifle, humming an old country tune. "You came out swinging," he said. "I didn't come to lose," she replied. He nodded. "You've got your father's blood." Emily looked up. "You knew him?" "I served with him." Rains said quietly. Back when he saved 6 men in Helmand before retiring. He used to talk about his daughter with hands steadier than his. Emily's breath caught. He told me, "She's gonna outshoot me one day." She blinked hard, eyes wet. "I already did," she whispered Dot, and Rains smiled for the first time. Asterisk for the next week. Emily trained like her life depended on it. The assessment center was unlike anything she'd imagined. It wasn't basic training. It wasn't even advanced military. It was something sharper, colder, tailored for ghosts. Every drill was designed to break habits, eliminate hesitation, and demand precision under pressure. Sleep was minimal, stress constant, but Emily never cracked. She listened more than she spoke, watched the others' form, timing, and instincts, and made subtle corrections to her own. She didn't try to impress anyone. She just kept outperforming everyone. By day 4, the others stopped underestimating her. Mackie, the former Marine sniper who once side-eyed her presence, now offered nods of respect. 2 others, Derek and Juno, invited her to practice with them off-clock. Even the instructors started watching her differently, not as a candidate, but as an anomaly. But Rains? He kept his distance. Every evening, he'd appear during the final drill, standing quietly near the tower or leaning against a post. He never commented, never smiled, just observed. When Emily shot, his attention sharpened. He noticed every breath she took, every twitch of the wind, every millimeter she adjusted. But he never spoke to her directly again until the final day. The final simulation was brutal. A hostage scenario. Live fire, real terrain, no do-overs. 12 operators split into 4 teams of 3. Emily was paired with Mackie and a former Air Force JTAC named Tripp. Their objective: infiltrate a mock village, locate the hostage, neutralize threats, and exit without civilian casualties, all within 12 minutes. Tripp handled drone feed. Mackie provided overwatch. Emily moved alone through the undergrowth, silent and calculated. She spotted a reflection in a second-story window and instantly read the angle. A sniper. The shot was nearly impossible, obstructed, backlit, partial. Visibility. But she didn't hesitate. She dropped flat, adjusted for elevation and glare, calculated wind based on a leaf fluttering beside her cheek, and fired. The window shattered. A siren blared. Kill confirmed. She moved quickly after that, marking enemies, clearing corners with precision. When the hostage was retrieved and safely extracted, the timer stopped. 0.11 minutes, 34 seconds, 0 civilian casualties, 0 friendly fire. Top score of the class. When the simulation ended, instructors gathered the candidates near the range. A senior evaluator read scores aloud. Some passed, some didn't. Emily stood in the second row, helmet tucked under her arm, her expression unreadable. Then Rains stepped forward. For a long moment, he said nothing. He scanned the line. Then, without warning, he walked directly toward Emily. The air shifted. She looked up, confused, and straightened unconsciously. Rains stopped a few feet in front of her. No words, no rank exchange. Just a slow, deliberate motion as he removed his cap, squared his shoulders, and raised his hand into a full, flawless military salute. The other candidates fell silent. This wasn't ceremony. It was something deeper. Emily didn't move at first. Her fingers curled at her side. Then she slowly lifted her hand and returned the salute clean, sharp, like her father taught her when she was 10. When it ended, Rains stepped back and said only 3 words: "You're not done." Then he turned and walked away. Later that night, a sealed envelope was slid under her door. Inside, a plane ticket, a security badge, and a short letter signed with only 1 word: "Welcome." No unit name. No official letterhead. Just coordinates. Her next step. She folded the letter slowly, heart pounding but calm. There was no ceremony, no medals, no graduation. Just purpose. She opened her rifle case and cleaned it one last time under the soft glow of her bedside lamp. Each swipe of the cloth reminded her of home, the Montana skies, the scent of gun oil in the garage, her father's voice echoing in her mind. You were never meant to be ordinary. She send single quotes T. Now the world was about to find out why. Emily stepped off the small jet and into a world that didn't exist on any map. The landing strip was hidden deep in Appalachia, surrounded by dense forest and sheer silence. A blacked-out transport vehicle met her at the end of the tarmac. Number 1 spoke. The driver wore no uniform, no name tag, just mirrored glasses and a scar across his neck, like he'd survived 100 lives already. They drove for an hour through winding roads before the trees opened to a compound, unlike any she'd seen. It wasn't military. It was older, quieter, designed to stay invisible. There were no insignias, no flags, no welcome briefings. Just gravel underfoot, high fencing, watchtowers, and a security system more advanced than anything Emily had seen, even during her week. In Virginia, every corner had pressure sensors. Every building was sealed with biometric locks. Inside the facility, she was greeted by a woman in her late 40s, sharp-eyed, with a tone that held command. Cody name's Blue Fire now, woman said, handing her a keycard. You don't use your real name again unless we say so. Emily nodded. From this point on, the woman continued, you're training operatives, not soldiers, not agents. People we send where others can't go. What you teach might keep someone alive behind a wall you'll never see. Emily didn't ask questions. She never had to. The next few days were a storm of schedule and silence. She was introduced to 2 other instructors, Cade, a former CIA ghost, and Vega, an ex-Delta operator who spoke in riddles. The 3 of them formed a triangle, 1 for field tactics, 1 for intelligence evasion, and 1 for precision warfare. Emily was the 3rd. She wasn't there to take lives. She was there to save them by teaching others how to end threats before they began. Her students weren't regular soldiers. They were specialists, some wounded, some retired, others in between. A few arrived on canes. 1 had a prosthetic leg. But all of them had something in their eyes, something raw, something that didn't die on the battlefield. They called themselves the Lost. Rains wasn't part of the facility officially, but his presence loomed. Once a week, he flew in to observe quietly. He never interrupted, never gave feedback, just watched. But Emily could feel it, the silent weight of expectation. Not pressure, faith. On her 3rd week, one of the veterans, a young man named Keller, who'd lost his arm in Syria, struggled to stabilize a long-range shot. The recoil threw him off balance every time. Others gave up on him. Emily didn't. She stayed with him after hours, modified his rifle grip, adjusted his elbow rest, taught him how to time his breath with a single remaining heartbeat, something her father once showed her. 3 days later, Keller hit the bullseye and cried, not because of the shot, but because someone believed he still could. Word spread, and soon others lined up for her sessions. Not because she was famous, not because she barked orders, but because she saw them. Each one, not as broken, but as unfinished. One night, Vega found her in the armory, cleaning old suppressors. You know what Rains told me? Vega asked. Emily looked up. He said you weren't meant to fight in wars. You were meant to keep others from dying in them. Emily didn't respond right away, just nodded slowly. He's right. By the end of her 2nd month, the facility had its first perfect simulation run. Her students. Her methods her legacy already beginning. Still, she remained quiet. Never asked for praise. Never looked for a spotlight, her father once told her. True warriors don't chase glory. They carry silence like armor. She was proving that one student at a time, and somewhere, beyond the cameras and headlines, a legend was forming, not from blood, but from precision. Asterisk. Winter struck the mountains hard. The facility was half buried under snow, the training fields frosted white, and the sky hung heavy with clouds that never broke. The cold didn't stop the simulations, though it sharpened them. Real-world threats didn't pause for weather, and neither did the instructors. Emily trained harder, taught longer. Her students trusted her more than any manual or protocol. But the next assignment was different. It wasn't just training this time, it was evaluation. A joint unit operations simulation. Live rounds, split teams, full tactical immersion. The trainees had to move, infiltrate, extract, and exit within a strict window, and watching it all? The heads of the program and Commander Rains. Emily didn't. Like the attention, but she understood the stakes. She had molded these people, taught them how to breathe under fire, how to calculate wind in chaos, how to make a single shot mean everything. Now she'd find out if it was enough. The briefing was delivered in a frigid hangar. 40 people, 4 squads, 1 compound to breach, 1 hostage to recover, and a silent timer that would end the simulation when either success or failure was clear. Emily stood behind her group. She didn't speak. She watched. The operation began just before dawn. Her team Keller, the amputee sniper, Juno, a former combat medic, and Mackie, the scout sniper from Virginia, moved as one. Emily was embedded only as an observer, not a participant, but her presence was a stabilizer. They didn't glance at her, they didn't need to. Keller climbed the ridge using only one arm and his prosthetic, got into overwatch position, and sent a silent signal with 2 fingers. Juno and Mackie infiltrated the first structure, cleared a room, moved under the cover of fog. The wind shifted. Emily didn't say a word, but Keller made the correction. Fired once, threat neutralized. 10 minutes later, Juno had located the hostage, a weighted dummy rigged with noise sensors, and signaled for EVAC. No mistakes. No missed timing. Perfect execution. Timer stopped. 18 minutes, 27 seconds. No casualties. No alarms triggered. All targets neutralized. The observer said nothing. The rest of the day went on. Others ran their scenarios. Some failed. Some barely passed. But that evening, during the debrief, Rains walked into the hangar. Emily stood in the back, not expecting much. She had no rank, no official title. Just a clipboard and a rifle that still smelled like gun oil and desert wind. Room quieted as Rains took the center. He glanced over the trainees, said a few words about the exercise, the precision, the improvements. Then his gaze found hers. He walked toward her. No ceremony. No podium. Just boots on cold cement. Emily straightened instinctively. He stopped 2 feet away, looked at her with something between pride and reverence, and without a word raised his hand into a full, flawless military salute. The room went dead silent. The gesture echoed louder than any applause. It wasn't protocol. It wasn't scripted. It wasn't required. It was respect. The kind given not to superiors, but to legends. Emily held the salute a moment, then returned it crisp, steady, just as her father taught her. Something in the air shifted. People stood taller. Even the instructor's lips changed. No one spoke. Later that night, she sat outside the barracks, snow falling gently on her rifle case. Mackie joined her, holding 2 coffees. I saw that, he said quietly. She nodded. So, did everyone? You know what that salute meant, don't you? She looked out toward the tree line. It meant he doesn't need to explain anymore. And that was enough. From that night on, no one doubted her place. Not among warriors, not among ghosts. Not in the shadows. She helped train others to survive. Because when a SEAL commander salutes a civilian sniper, the world listens even if no one speaks. Emily Carter, codenamed Bluefire, never wore a uniform, never swore an oath before a flag, and never held an official rank. Yet whispers about her traveled through the walls of federal offices, secret operations, and war rooms like wildfire. Not because of what she did in the field, but because of what she gave others the power to do. She didn't walk through battles. She built the warriors who did. Her students, many of them thought to be finished by the system, were now part of something bigger, a new kind of unit. Quiet, precise, unofficial. The kind of team governments denied existed. The kind that stopped things before they made the news. Bluefire trained them. Her program became the backbone of Project Echo, a silent branch created for specialists who didn't fit into traditional molds. Veterans with injuries, former agents with PTSD, even young prodigies who had talent but no direction. Emily's role wasn't to turn them into killers. It was to show them how to control what they already had and use it only when nothing else could. It wasn't about the gun. It was about the decision behind the trigger. One afternoon, during a drone test simulation in Utah, a visiting intelligence official approached Vega, one of Emily's co-instructors. "Where did you find her?" he asked, gesturing toward Emily, who was calmly coaching a blindfolded candidate through a timed reassembly drill. Vega didn't answer at first, just watched her for a moment, then replied, "We didn't find her. She was already doing the job before we knew the job existed." Emily never heard that conversation. She wouldn't have cared. All she cared about was results, and those came in quietly. One of her earliest students, Keller, the one with the prosthetic arm, was now embedded in a deep cover-op overseas. Another Juno was flown to D.C. to train Homeland Security snipers in precision hostage extraction. Word got back to Emily through encrypted channels, brief texts, and field reports. But she never responded with praise, just a nod. And silence. That was her way. One evening, after another long day at the range, she sat alone in the control room, reviewing footage of a live drill gone wrong. One of her trainees had panicked during a breach scenario. No one was hurt, but the breakdown bothered her. She rewound the clip a dozen times. Rains entered the room without knocking. He leaned against the doorframe, arms folded, studying her. As she studied the footage, "You still take it personally," he said. Emily didn't look up. "They depend on me to get it right. If I miss something, they carry that mistake out there." Rains walked over, placed a folded paper beside her. "That's why they'd follow you into fire." She opened it. It was a letter handwritten from one of her graduates. Simple words, "Still alive because of what you taught me. You changed the outcome." She stared at the paper for a long time. "You didn't sign your name," Rains added. "You didn't ask for credit. But the world's a little safer today because you were willing to stay in the shadows." Emily finally looked up. "What happens when the shadows grow darker?" He paused, then smiled faintly. "Then they'll need you even more." Later that week, Project Echo received quiet funding from a backdoor congressional panel, thanks to testimonials, success metrics, and one unexpected thing: a short video submitted anonymously. It was grainy, black and white footage from Nevada. A girl lying prone in the dirt, rifle steady, wind hugging her braid. 5 perfect shots, dead center. No sound. Just the quiet crack of precision. No face shown. No name given. But every person on that panel agreed, whoever she was, she needed to keep training our best. And that's how Bluefire became legend. Not with rank. Not with medals. With accuracy and impact. Asterisk. The Nevada desert hadn't changed. Same. Cracked earth. Same whispering winds. Same rusted fence around the shooting range where it all began. But the people? They had stories now about a woman who used to come in the mornings before the sun got hot, lay down in lane 7 and shoot. Like time itself stood still. Some said she was ex-CIA. Others claimed she worked for a private military contractor so elite, even the Pentagon didn't know its name. Some swore she was just a ranch girl with a broken past and a perfect shot. No one really knew, except Roy. The old range owner still kept her lane empty, still swept it clean every week, even though she hadn't been back in years. He never said much about her. But one day, a young girl showed up, freckles, maybe 13, holding a hunting rifle too big for her frame, and a nervous kind of hope in her eyes. Roy stepped out from the shack. "You here to shoot?" The girl nodded. "My uncle said someone. Trained here once. A woman who could shoot a mile without blinking. Said she changed people's lives." Roy tilted his head. "She did." The girl looked down. "Is it true she was never in the military?" Roy chuckled. "Doesn't take a uniform to be dangerous." He handed her a set of ear protection and motioned toward lane 7. The girl walked over and froze when she saw it. A photo dot taped to the back wall behind the target posts. A black and white picture faded with time, showing a silhouette of a woman lying prone, rifle aimed downrange. Underneath, scrawled in ink, "If you're reading this, aim steady, breathe slow, and make it count." Blue fire. The girl didn't know who Blue Fire was, but she lowered herself into the dust, lined up her rifle, and tried anyway. Far away, on a snow-covered slope in Norway, Emily Carter was watching wind patterns through a spotter scope. She no longer worked from a single base. She was mobile now, teaching NATO units, refining field sniper programs, and evaluating forward operating training models for teams the world never acknowledged. She stayed out of the light, always moving, never sticking around too long. But her fingerprints were everywhere in the steadier hands of trainees who no longer flinched, in the silence before a bullet flew true, in the way warriors breathed under pressure. She got a message. At morning, encrypted, from Mackie. Keller got pulled into a JSOC mission. They made him team lead. She smiled. That same small, quiet smile she gave after hitting a perfect shot. One more student making it home. Later, a general she'd never met flew in on a classified bird just to shake her hand. "I've never seen an instructor turn ghosts into guardians." He said, "You do it like it's nothing." She didn't answer, just nodded and returned to her scope. That night, Emily sat alone near the fire, sipping coffee that had gone cold. She stared up at the stars. For a moment, she swore she could hear her father's voice in the wind. "Not bad, kid. Not bad at all." She looked at the night sky open, endless, and finally allowed herself a breath she hadn't taken in years. Not relief, not rest, just peace. She didn't need headlines. She didn't need awards. She didn't need to be remembered, because the truth was simple. She already was. In every trainee who steadied their scope. In every soldier who didn't break under fire. In every lost warrior who found a way forward. In every perfect shot that echoed long after the sound faded. Emily Carter was never just practicing. She was preparing the world for those who could save it.